All right. So without any further ado, please welcome my dear friend and legendary drummer, the great Gary Mallaber. Just freshening up.
I have to. Wait a minute, hold on. I'm on East Coast. I just got in last night. What are you talking about? Oh,
Yeah. Oh man, Gary, so good to see you. I want to tell everybody how much of a sport you are. He just got off the road last night. He's been touring with AJ Croce, and he was so kind and so gracious to get up early this morning, West Coast time, to do this today at 1 o'clock Eastern time. So, Gary, thank you. You're the best. You are the
well,
best.
well, okay. As long as I'm not out there with these animals anymore.
Oh man.
Good.
Well,
Uh, in the house over here in Thousand Oaks in LA, and I just got back last night. We almost got trapped because of all of the outages in the airports, but we
yeah.
just through, so we escaped the duck that one. Hi, sir. Boy, what a wall you've got going on back there. That's great.
Well, thank you. It's a virtual photo. I'm actually not at home, so
Oh,
that's a picture of my home studio.
are you working with
Okay,
the screen? Oh, you.
I got the old virtual. I'll show you what. Let's
Okay,
see if
okay,
I see if
okay.
I can show you my. This is my real background.
Oh, okay.
Not
You
a,
need
not
a
as
lamp.
exciting.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good. Tricky. We're tricky. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Well, you're in my fourth studio. I've got one here and I got one up north. And on top of finishing these 5, 6 concerts for AJ, they were almost in a row. Prior to that, we did almost 2 days worth of filming in Nashville on the new album that we completed. There's 11 or 12 songs on the new one, and that's going to come out, I think, in February. And we wound up filming every song, and they're going to
Wow.
each one a little vignette of each one to introduce the
Yeah.
album. And that was a little bit of work.
I'll bet it was.
Yeah,
Man.
and then just jumped right into the concerts. We were sort of in that Indiana area, Rockford, Illinois, in there. We did,
Mhm.
and wonderful reaction. People are really getting both books. I'm going to put this down. We don't need this one. Um, all that composition between his dad and his book of composition. So it's
Yeah.
going over pretty well. Very well. Good band. Wonderful unit. So,
I hope you make it to the East Coast sometime, Gary. I would love to see you. I would
well, I
make it.
rekindled a little bit with of John Platania, the original guitar player on all the Van Morrison albums, and John's in Poughkeepsie, and he works in Rhinebeck with the engineer Elliot Shiner. So Rhinebeck has become, the upstate New York recording center spot
Yeah, yeah.
for all this stuff. So,
Well,
okay,
talking about Van Morrison, yeah, no, that's a great segue because talking about Van Morrison, the first time I had you on live from my drum room in 2020, we talked a lot about Moondance, the record, and I thought today we would just maybe talk about a few select songs. When I say a few, I mean it's hard to really say a few when we talk to you because there are so many songs, but one of the greatest stories that you've ever told is the story of the vibraphone part on Crazy Love. And I thought this time maybe we'd play it and a little of it anyway, and then maybe have you talk about just to sort of jump in that particular session and how all that happened.
if you play the first 20 seconds of that, I'm responsible with Elliot for staying behind. I didn't want to go back up to Woodstock. I said, no, this is great. We're in Manhattan. I want to stay here. Good. There's a deli down the street. Everything's great. And we wound up mixing the record, and yeah, the vibraphone part. And when we mixed that, I made sure we pushed that thing up. So I said, oh, it's a very misunderstood instrument. Let's make it become understood for this song.
I love it.
Especially.
I love it. Well, let's hear a few seconds of it.
Here, go.
Can hear her heartbeat from 1,000 miles. Yeah, the heavens open every time she smiles. And when I come to her, that's where I belong. Yet I run into her like a river song. She gave me love, 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 crazy love. She gave me love, 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 crazy love. She got a fine sense of humor when I'm feeling low down. Yeah, when I come to her, when the sun goes down. Take away my trouble, take away my grief, take away my heartache in a night like a thief. She gave me love, 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 crazy love. She gave me love, 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 crazy love.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The wonderful singing in the background. That was, here we go, really quick. You'll like this. Mary Clayton, Vanetta
Yes.
Faye, and Whitney Houston's mom. That was
Sissy.
so the three of them sang that. And that was live. And that's one take with Van singing and playing his guitar. There's no tricks.
Man.
Yeah, that was then. And
how records were made. Yeah.
Started that, I said, oh, that's it. I'm hearing it in the headphone. You know, Elliot had it sounding like a record, which was very nice then. The thing sounded like a record when you're recording it. You know, they had echo on stuff and everything. I go, wow, I feel like I'm already inside the record that we're going to mix. So that made it wonderful. It's like you're playing along with somebody else's take. But it was great. And you know, I stayed behind and spent that whole weekend with Elliot and running those tracks. And that was such a very special band.
Man, was it ever?
Special guys. And that guitar work, that's John Platani. And I'm still friends with John. And he's still one of, I believe, Van's go-to guitar player still years later. And I'm thinking there might be, I was told there might be a project coming up around and go up to Rhinebeck and record with Elliot. And that would be really fun. But years ago, I said to John, that would be nice if Van wanted to pull together that, the Moondance band and go out there with that. I think after that concert tour, he could buy the entire country of Ireland, and he would be happy. He would be happy with that, to get all the original back together again.
Man, it would be unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Well, you know, there's a lot to compare. I mean, we're, 50 some years down the road, and how things were done and how things are done now, there's a lot to compare. So,
yeah. Just to talk about that song for a second, Gary, I mean, your vibraphone playing is just absolutely exquisite. It's beautiful. But I think, you and I don't often talk about your incredible brush playing on that song. I mean, it's just equally exquisite. It's just it's so perfect for that song, the dynamics. And it's almost like the vibraphone part. It's like the perfect connection to the brush part. It's perfect.
And that's exactly what I discussed with Elliot. And I said, you see that vibraphone over there that SIR did not take back to the warehouse, and it's still here? Well, guess what? We're going to put that thing on that record right now. And that's exactly what happened. And the story goes, and it was true, there were no mallets with it.
Right.
It was just a vibraphone. So I said, well, I'm going to have to invent something. I went into the engineering room where they were doing they had all of their tools. And lo and behold, I found, these long rubber-handled Craftsman screwdrivers. So I took 3 of them, and I was able to form and that was it. It worked. Actually, they worked wonderfully. I mean, they were just the right, softness and hardness to them. And we captured it, and I folded it back up, and I put it over in the corner. I said, they'll never know we used it. They left it overnight. And we got some good use out of it, because the song in all my jazz training and stuff I played when I was, younger, 15, 16. It was screaming to have that part on there. I said, let's just do it. Let's see what it works. And it worked. There was room for that to be heard.
Yeah. It's perfect. I'm going to play a couple of seconds of another song from that record. And, not the most obvious song, which of course is Moon Dance, because the entire record, I've told you this a million times, it's one of those records you play, you can never just play one song. You have to play it from start to finish. And that's whenever I listen to it, it's just, right through. Every song is just like that,
John, one note on that, what you just said. I believe the count now on that album is I believe every song has been used somewhere in some film and motion picture.
It's heavy.
Okay.
Well, this song is the first song on the record, and so I've just given away what it is. And I just think, again, your playing in this song is it's just.
From the county fair, and the rain came pouring down. Me and Billy standing there with a silver £50. Hands are full of a fishing rod and the tackle on our backs. We just stood there getting wet with our backs against the fence. Oh, the water. Oh, the water. Oh, the water. Hope it don't rain all day. And it stung me to my soul. Stung me just like Jelly Roll. And it stung me. Yet it stung me to my soul. Stung me just like going home. Yet it stung me. And the rain let up and the sun came up. We were getting dry. Almost let a pickup truck nearly pass us by. So he jumped right in the driver grinned, and he dropped us up the road. Yeah, we looked at the swim, and we jumped right in, not to mention fishing poles. Oh, the water. Oh, the water. Oh, the water. Let it run all over me. Yeah, that stung me to my soul. Stung me just like Jelly Roll. And it stung me. And it stung me to my soul. Stung me just like going home. And it stung me.
I have to hear this press roll that you do at the end here.
On the way back home, we sang a song.
Oh,
You know-
man.
Compositional. I mean, I've been really, really fortunate, and I know that. But, if you listen intently, all along I learned that, the more intense you are and you're listening and your playback, I mean, I'm in the studio and I'm dead serious. So, I mean, I'll sleep there just to make sure the album goes right. I will, and I've done that. So, you love doing it, and that band was everybody's playing abilities were just wonderful. I mean, that's Jeff
Yeah.
Labes on piano, and he's classically trained, and he played jazz, and he played in a jazz trio, and everybody used what they knew perfectly, and we were listening to Van. That's the take, and
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
hearing that your headphones. So you know,
Magical. It's just magical. I mean, and I mean, these songs, I mean, as you say, over 50 years, 54 years now since this record came out. And it must just make you feel so good and content to know that you created this. It's a masterpiece. I mean, there are a few records that you can really truly call a masterpiece, and this is one of them. And
that writing is there. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
I say it to everybody I run into, and I tell people, I say, look, with me, I started playing at 4 years old, but very early on, I realized that what it became to me was compositional first, because I played, in the early grammar school orchestras, and then in high school orchestra for 4 years straight, and then 2 years at the University of Buffalo, and I left. But along that way, in being involved with that type of music that some people do miss, I had that. So I was really, reverse engineering every single thing I got my hand on and
mhm,
understanding how the orchestra worked. So all of that played a part in what finally, you know, took place. And I distribute that stuff out, but I did drive my teacher crazy because I rewrote the parts. And he said, "Would you just play the part for the band all 4 years?" Every time I would change the part, and he would throw the fist at me while he was conducting. Did you like? We did this for 4 years. He was a beautiful man. Salvatore Scamacca, he was a gem, and he would throw the fist at me. Changing the part. Well, I respect it, but how about this one? And he said, "Yeah, okay,
you
leave. Okay, enough. That's
you
enough."
you were already composing it at that young age.
Yeah, yeah. There was only supposed to be a 5-stroke roll, and I turned it into a 7. Eventually, I got it to a 9. All the rudiments will understand that
Oh
one.
man. Well,
And
on
I
that
used
last
rudiment. Yes, I just jumped
no,
all of it, and I just said, "All right, let me see if I can play with this." But that led to all the invention of trying to create something that didn't exist, if
mhm,
allowed by whoever that artist was. Van was open. Every time I said, "Can I put a percussion part on?" Or yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. His creative time in that period of time in his life was just wonderful.
yeah,
That's what
yeah,
that's why they came
yeah.
out.
Just really, and I was just going to say, when you on that particular song, and it stoned me. Did you, this is one of these drummer geek questions, but did you consciously in your mind sit behind the beat? I mean, in certain places, it sounds like you're so, really just kind of pulling it back and giving it all this air and all this breath. And I just wondered, did you fall into it with the way the song came together, or did you just really want to create that tension of just, and I can replay that part if you want, but I'm sure you know where I mean. During the first verse, especially,
The whole drum world and everybody out there can talk about falling forward, on or back of the beat. And I don't believe in the term less is more. It doesn't really make enough sense to me. Less could be better, but it just, you know, everybody was breathing at the same time, and you found that, and you knew that was right. and you just played it. And that live performance, we're rebounding off that performance. You don't get that a lot. I did that
Yeah.
with Steve Moore. I did that with Eddie Money. The people I work with, certainly with Springsteen. I mean, but people that when that comes around, those records all become fairly successful. I wonder why. And today you could work any way you want. I'm not saying that's the only way to work, but that certainly works pretty much all the time. To how long a song can endure its time to stay around. That is the things that keep it around. But my influence with Van came from the record prior to that, because he had done what I call he called the Frankenstein record, which was the one that he did called Astral Weeks. And when I heard that, I was like, it was an epiphany for me. I said, wait a minute, nobody's doing this. There's nobody out here. What he just did, I said, I haven't heard anyone do that. The way he wove that, and when he created that record, he wove all of that by himself first, which was astounding. And then the right people were called in, and they sweetened that record into what it became, and it haunts me today. And this is 50 years later, and I just play some of those. And I talked about, I mean, if you're into it, this could be an interesting story, or else maybe you're not into that record at all. But to me, that was a major, major, major crossroad for me when I heard what he could do. I said, and I asked him when I lived with him up in Woodstock, I asked him, I said, where did a lot of this come from? And he goes, well, I had kind of a haunted childhood. And those are the streets and the areas of Belfast where I grew up, and I can hear it. And how some you just connect, and other people won't, but you connect, and that connected to me and drove me. I said, wow, wherever that came from, I can get behind that. There you go.
It definitely inspired you. Yeah. I mean, you're playing on that whole record is so inspired. It just, we've talked about this, I know before, but it's like, to use the term in the moment, it maybe isn't the right way to say it, but it just feels very fresh and spontaneous. Yeah. Like it's, and as you've said many times too, it's all you guys playing together. It's everybody in the room creating the music at the same time.
It's now stood the test of time. I think it'll continue, but that moment in working with him and that intent that I used, I carried that with me. From that point on, I said, that's it. I'm not turning around. I'm not turning back. I'm going to go forward, and I'm going to keep creating, coming up with some. I like to come up with stuff that's allowable and that works, but I could put some sort of new edge onto it, or make it do a little something else without trying. I'm not trying to do it for anybody in the drum world at all. I'm just trying to do it for the moment. Can the song adhere to that? Will it work? If not, off. We won't go. We'll just keep it standard. And Miller let me do that. Down the road, Miller was the same way. Go. If it works, keep going. If it doesn't work, we'll know.
Yeah. Well,
I had that around you. And if you have that around you, and you don't want people around you that are cutting you off at the knees, or, and I'm not trying to make an enemy here, but sometimes you have to play through the producer. You like it?
No, I understand that. Yeah.
I don't like it yet. So let me make it so I like it. But I didn't have to go through that. I was with people that said, go. That was wonderful. To all the players out there, when you could get that kind of workload going and somebody just said, go, let's see what happens. That's wonderful.
Well, they trusted you, Gary. That's a big part of it. Obviously, all these artists trusted that you were gonna bring the right drum intro, drum part, composition, whatever the case was. You were able to deliver that time and time again, and it shows.
That was my decision at that point in my life. And I said, you know what? I think those 4 guys from Liverpool, I think they've done something here. And they've showed us that that studio is our studio. And I'm going to keep hitting the canvas. Just put up another canvas,
Yeah.
build the frame, put the canvas on, staple it, and go. And that's it. That's what I've been doing in the last 50 years, and I still do it that way. I have my way of recording. I treat those speakers as if they are a canvas, and you could do anything you want with it. It's just got to work with the song and the composition that you're composing and how you're treating that composition and the temperament you're giving it. If that comes together, you got it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Steve Miller and that he trusted you. And I'm going to play what I think is one of the absolute greatest drum intros of all time. We talked about the song Fly Like an Eagle last year. I had you on Track Talk, and we did a fantastic breakdown of that song. But I'm going to play the one of the big singles from that record. And I think you know what it's going to be. Here it comes.
All right.
This fill right here. This one.
Well,
okay, I have a quick. Can I just tell you? A quick story. And I want to hear what you have to say about that. But that fill you do right there at the very end as it's fading. That was the first time I'd heard you play with Steve Miller. That was the first single. And to my recollection, I mean, the record "Fly Like an Eagle" had come out. That was the lead single. And that was the first song that I heard from that record. And I remember hearing this song and going, whoever this guy is, he is a mother. I mean, everything in that song, the intro, it's one of those intros that every kid who played the drums in those days tried to play it. It was just like it had that, it was infectious. But that fill you play at the end, Gary, forget about it. That was where became obvious, like, oh my God, this guy.
In response to that, any of the guys and ladies out there that are doing this, okay, when you're recording with a trio, it's easier to get the parts right. Okay. So it
Hmm.
was Steve and Lonnie Turner on bass, who was Steve's main bass player for all those years. And it wasn't Lonnie, it was Gerald Johnson. He played on Joker. But
Hmm.
Lonnie was standing right next to me. The baffles were up, about 4 feet. Lonnie was standing right there. And I was throwing him signs so we could hit those parts, holding the sticks. I'm throwing him a 2, I'm throwing him a tree, and then he could read me. And it was Steve. 3 guys or 3 women, whatever the case may be. Okay. You don't have to wait
Wow.
for the 4th part to be perfect. You could pull off anything you want to pull off. I highly recommend it. And Steve encouraged it. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
the guy that Steve allowed everything to happen. We were basically producing ourselves, and
Yeah.
it was a good time. But nobody was stopping the energy flow. We just kept, and then we would confer and bring the tapes home, and I'd stay at Steve's house and we'd listen till 4 o'clock in the morning, go back to the studio, and we did that for 2 months, and just say, "What do you think?" Okay, well, I don't know. Let's do one more, and then. But that thing was like take 3, and then we just spun it around. And he said, "No, I can have fun with this one. Okay, let's use it." And
Wow.
but he
Yeah.
encouraged, and his creativity and his spirit. The record industry had not yet, worn him down. It was
Yeah.
live.
Yeah.
So you hear him from all the guys. I mean, the record industry could be brutal, and it's
Yeah.
not there
Yeah.
anymore. But we were just there ourselves with Mike on engineering, and we engineered most of that record ourselves, because a lot of times we had to change. Things wouldn't. I don't want to get into a 20-minute dissertation on this, but engineering and volume of what you're hearing, the drum kit, really getting the drum kit right. A lot of times there are what I call disappearing fills. You go, what? Because they disappear. I said, well,
Hmm.
why are they disappearing? Don't set it up like you're recording a jazz unit. It's not going to work. This is an important part. We got to make sure we capture that. So when the Chinese cymbal made its debut, it was a mic.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure that thing was going to be heard, and they were angry at me for that. It was very abrasive. It was very abrasive, and a lot of people still don't like it. So, well, I don't.
And that was I mean, that was before "Rockin' Me, Babe." It was from the same album, but
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that was the first single. So that was the first time we heard that China, because you
yeah,
played at the end of the intro, Phil, right? You played la da 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 dun, dun, bang, da,
yeah.
boom,
It was
bam,
there.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, everything was there, and now I've been with Zildjian for such a long time, and they said, "Look, don't keep talking about those stories where the cymbals were broke." Okay, I said, "Okay, I'll leave that alone." But a lot of times, I still have my protractor.
yeah,
After
yeah,
school, I cut it, and I said, "Well, let's make that thing work," and it's still there. I still say, you can have a cymbal in a different shape.
right.
They're cutting holes in
That
them, doing this and doing that, but my protractor is still with me, and it's got a very, very special sound. So
it
I'll hang
absolutely has a special sound,
on.
classic, yeah, legendary
Out
sound,
of
and
those records, I kept everything. I kept the toms from Fly Like an Eagle to Put Away, and they're all mismatched. But that's what
yeah,
I used, and they worked. We just, as we heard playback, I was on it. Tune, move, tune. What key are we in? Okay, move it. It wasn't accidental. We spent time doing it.
yeah, yeah. And just to refresh mine and everybody's memory, Gary, the kit, I know it was like a hybrid, as you say, a mix of, it was a Rogers Dynasonic snare.
Oh, yeah, there was one Pearl. Yeah, Rogers, correct. And then there was
Yep.
a Gretsch.
Yeah.
Yes, a Gretsch that I used.
The
And
toms were pearl fiberglass. Is that what you were going to say?
one was Tour wood, one was fiberglass. So they
Okay.
really did sound a little different. There's a difference in those, and
Yeah.
it was completely mismatched kit, but it was fun. Nobody cared. I made it work.
It's a great sounding kit. I mean, it was perfect for the studio. It loved the microphones. Yeah.
Yes, everything changed on every record, but I've kept all of my cymbals since high school and all of my snare drums since the recording days. I've got every one of them. They're in the garage.
Wow. Great.
I just used some of those on AJ's new album. He said, man, because we cut it at the famous Sunset Sound in LA. And Shooter Jennings produced.
Yes.
Jennings, dad, that's his dad. And it was some great stories. And they said, would you bring in some of those snare drums? I said, sure. So I brought in a bunch of those to choose from. And we had about 6 of them there. And
fantastic.
Yeah.
And the intro to Take the Money and Run was, you kind of floated the idea to Steve. You said, I've got an idea for an intro. And he gave you
yes, he was completely agreeable. I said, Steve, can I kick this one off? He goes, okay, go. That's what I heard for 2 months. I got another idea. Okay, go. If it's good, we'll keep going. If I stop, I said, okay, fair enough.
Well, I think
yeah. I'll answer all your questions today, sir. But one little note to that: when we came to the song "Swingtown," just quickly, so we don't have to stay on it. Me and Lonnie looked at each other and said, "Houston, we got a problem. This song's not quite. It's not quite there yet." And we knew. I said to Lonnie, and Steve left the room. I said, Lonnie, this song sounds like it needs to come from somewhere instead of adding to it. We gotta pull the front. It's got to sound like it's coming from somewhere, and that's what happened. And I pulled that out, and Steve ran back in the room and said, "Keep it going. That's what we're using." But that's that moment of invention, and it has to be allowable. Yeah. I mean, that could have been tossed, and that wouldn't have been the song it became.
Yeah.
See? So who you're in the room with, some people might toss away that stuff. Maybe producers recognize it. Whereas, don't put me in the cutting floor. Let's allow this to live. We'll listen back. There you go.
Another iconic song. Just
let's make some romance. I know the night is falling and the music's calling, and we got to get down to swing down. We've been working so hard. We've been working so hard. Come on, baby, let's dance. Bump, bump, bump. Bump, bump, bump. Bump, bump, bump. Come on and dance. Come on and dance. We may not get another chance. You know that night is falling and the music's calling, and we got to get down to swing down.
that Phil right there. That
and I've told you before, that was actually a drum cadence that I put together for my very short term of being a college student.
Yes, yeah.
2 years of interrupted by many gigs. But that was something I put together for the marching drum line, and
Mhm.
I just pulled it out and said, Lonnie, we need 4, 5 notes. And he played it immediately. I said, that's it. Keep going. Just keep going. Just keep playing that over and over and over. Steve came in the room. He said, that's it. Keep going. That's
Yeah.
how I came together. But, I just felt it was right to do something in the front of that brought us to that very, very simple course.
Mhm.
It didn't have anything prior to it. And that was Steve's tip of the hat, when he's doing, he's doing that stuff. That's like a little tip of the hat to the Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons in that era of music when that did that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a little tip of the
I
hat.
never
Yeah, it's all
I
rock and
never
roll.
realized that. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's great. It's
You realize rock and roll is almost 70 years old, depending on where you start the clock.
right,
That's a
right.
lot of history. There's a lot of music to listen to.
Well, Steve, I know Steve definitely is a student of that early rock and roll, that generation. So that all makes sense now when you say that. Yeah.
I talked to AJ Croce. AJ is because his dad's record collection was ridiculous, and he got it from there. And I said, "Do you
Yeah.
remember that song? But you remember that song that was like?" He goes, "Oh yeah, we got." And then we discussed the entire song and who recorded it and who the engineer. And every one of the engineers, they were just flying by the seat of their pants, creating rock and roll, what it became, and what gear they had to work with, which was nothing. They had
Mhm.
nothing to work with except some great microphones from the end of the World War II that were brought over and around from the big band days that were still wonderful. And that's how they did what they did. But I mean, if that's another week of discussion. You round up all the drummers and all the people in the sessions and all the engineers, and we could belt that one out for a week of discussion and see if we come to any conclusions. How that came to be. I mean, my God, you just think about an overview, that amount of information that was coming at us. And I worked in the studio when I was doing the third Eddie Money album with Tom Dowd. And Tom
Mhm.
Dowd, part of that era of technology with Bill Putnam and all those guys that were in the 50s were, realizing we're going somewhere else with this now. And that's what you got. I
Yeah.
find it
Yeah.
fascinating to be talking about it and how they arrived at some of the sounds on those 45s. You just play them back and you go, man, how did they mix that? How did they do that? It just
I
kills me.
know he was and when you think of the records he produced, Tom
Oh,
Dowd, and
oh,
like as you say, the technology compared to what they have today, but it's just so. I
oh
mean,
my
he
God.
got such what a sound, always an incredible drum sound, and
It wasn't
yeah,
only, I mean, you got to realize one thing that maybe, some of the generation has to understand. When they were making those records, that was it. That record went over to the quarter inch, 2-track or
yeah, yeah,
mono. That was it. That was the mix. You're done. You're not going to
yeah,
come in there and change hi-hat parts for the next 3 days. It's not going to work that way. Now, you don't have that
yeah.
choice. That's the mix. Even if somebody had to walk up to the mark on the floor and play their solo and then walk back, you heard that. Listen to the Little Richard records. You go, oh my God, how
Yeah.
they did that.
Yeah,
They captured it. They captured that era of time, which is precious.
absolutely. Well, talking about Eddie Money, it's funny you should
Oh,
mention Eddie Money because I wanted to play a song that you recorded with Eddie, and it's going to take me
boy,
just
I
one
miss him.
moment.
I miss that guy. That was
Yeah,
the low point. That was hard. Yeah, there's a lot to Eddie. There was a lot to that man. He's a good man, and
yeah,
I thought him more as a rock, R&B singer than a rock and roll singer. And I heard it in his voice, and I told Bruce Botnick, I said, I'm going to play my drums through a little bit different portal than he wants. And I said, and Bruce Botnick, who produced the Doors, just said, yeah, you just go ahead and do what you're going to do. I said, I'm going to, and he's probably going to give me a rough time for it. But this is the way I'm going to play these tunes. and I changed
Well,
up the inner force, and I didn't want to play that other kind of rock and roll that I think he was expecting to hear.
yeah. Well, I'm so glad you did, Gary, because this is another just iconic song I'm going to play. And this was right on the heels of the Steve Miller records, right? I mean, this was
It
1977, I think.
Yeah, it was in between all that stuff, because once we hit the big doing the football stadium concerts, for years, there was time off. There had to be time off. It was just too much, and
Mm.
that's when I was doing. I got called in to do the work with Eddie and got to know him, and he got to know me, and I'll tell you one more funny story after you play it.
All right. All right. Here comes Two Tickets to Paradise. Gary Mallaber on drums.
Got a surprise that's specially for you. Something that both of us have always wanted to do. Waiting so long, waiting so long, waiting so long, waiting so long. I'm gonna take you on a trip so far from here. I've got 2 tickets in my pocket now, baby. We're gonna disappear. Waiting so long, waiting so long, waiting so long, waiting so long. I've got 2 tickets to paradise. Won't you pack your bags and leave tonight? I've got 2 tickets to paradise. I've got 2 tickets to paradise. I'm gonna take you on a trip so far from here. I've got 2 tickets in my pocket, baby. We'll disappear. You know why? Waiting so long, waiting so long, waiting so long, waiting so long. I've got 2 tickets to paradise. Won't you pack your bags and leave tonight? I've got 2 tickets to paradise. Won't you pack your bags and leave tonight? I've got 2 tickets to paradise. Won't you pack your bags and leave tonight? I've got 2 tickets to paradise. I've got 2 tickets to paradise.
I did that guitar thing when Jimmy Lyon was playing that wonderful solo because I consider that one of the best rock and roll guitar solos on record. That's my list.
Absolutely.
I don't
Yeah.
like the other lists of what people come up with. I go, no, musically, that one, yeah, that one did something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just a real funny connective story is about when that record, when that first album came out, they just went on board. They laid on that everywhere. I think Bill Graham had something to do with it. Hey, Bill. Okay. Bill, and everybody up in San Francisco. And one day Eddie was out on the road with his first crew of guys that was in his band. And he made a phone call to me, and I was out with Steve. And he goes, and he started swearing at me. I said, "What's the matter? You okay?" He goes, "What the hell did you play that kind of drummage figure on the intro?" He goes, "Nobody can play it." I said, "Just tell them to move the tom where it's not supposed to be, and they'll get it. Just listen another." He goes, and then he said, "That's okay. When I come back into town, we'll have some lunch. Bye." Great. Thanks. I miss him, man.
Oh man.
He was a driving force. And the reason why that record sounds so good was because of Botnick and Andy Johns. That guy named Andy Johns happened to be
Oh
the
man.
engineer for that other band from England called Zeppelin. I think that was the
Yeah.
name.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
I had Bonham's engineer, and I said, "Okay, here we go."
Man.
Wow.
Yeah, that's no coincidence. I think you're right. I think
No.
that's when you have an engineer like Andy Johns,
Well,
it's
the Johns brothers,
yeah.
both of them, Glenn and
Yeah.
Andy. Glenn worked with the Beatles on the White Album. Both of them had
Right.
that superior ear. You know,
Yeah.
the English guys use that compression like no one could. Oh my God, did they work it?
What a
So,
what a
yeah,
sound. The whole record. And I was just going to say the pattern that you play during the last chorus, the coda as it's happening, and you're playing this great I don't know, I'm sure drummers are picking up on it, but you really got to listen and hear all these things you're doing. Every time Eddie says 2 tickets to paradise, you're hitting the China and you're hitting crashes, and it's this
yeah.
da 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 and da and da, and it's just again it just completely creates this beautiful accent around the vocal, and it shows the compositional side of you, Gary. You're listening to more than just your
See,
drum part.
my favorite word, John, compositional. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's the whole thing has to be the right temperament and interpretation to hold on to that song and make that thing catapult over the decades. We
yeah,
made it in
yeah,
one more decade. It's still getting played. It's still getting played. But there was a
yeah.
different intent. Yeah, there's a different intent in my drumming behind that stuff. And I learned years ago, just try to make it timeless. So I never really liked the Lindrums very much because I thought they were going to get trapped. So I stayed away from those. That sound that they used in some of the motion pictures from that era. Now they have them in it, and you go, "Ooh, ouch!" And it's just,
Yeah.
I don't know. You don't want to get locked into that time frame that could be detrimental down the road. So
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, something that's
that's
going to really
debatable.
date
I
the
know
sound of it.
there's
Yeah.
argument for that one. That's debatable. I know what I'm saying here. It's debatable, but that's the way I
No, but
feel about it.
I know what you're saying. I mean, there are some songs from that era that have that, and it sort of works because it's from a time when that was a sound. But
Yeah.
as you say, a song like that, for example, if you had that sort of sound on it, it wouldn't stand up the way it does today. It's so organic, it's so natural.
If you want to prove that point, somebody go back and listen to the Little Richard records. Just go
Yeah,
ahead and do
exactly.
it. Go right ahead. You
Yeah,
want to know where all of this stuff, what started the ball rolling? Go right there. You go back
yeah,
to those first 5 years and you go, oh man. Yes, the music was different and everything, but that spirit of that rock and roll of that era and what people were doing, you know, you just go back there, go
Yeah.
check that out, and you go, okay, you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
I leave it
Well,
alone. After I just leave it alone, then okay, you know, and we
well,
go.
I was gonna play a couple of seconds of a great Bruce Springsteen track. You played on the entire Lucky Town record
Oh yeah,
in 1992. Fabulous record. And the song Better Days, um, I think it's quite often in Bruce's set. It's such a great song. All these years later, it's again holds up, stands the test of time.
you know, John. Again, composition, right? That's what
Yeah.
15 times I've said it now. Um, what he wrote on that record, there's a lot of story on those two albums. You know, the two records was Human Touch and then Lucky Town. And he wrote, when he finished Human Touch, that was wonderful. Mr. Picaro played in studio with that. And then he
Yeah.
wrote another album over a
Yes.
weekend, like 5 days. And Chuck Plotkin knew me and he called me, and Toby Scott, the engineer, and he said, well, we've got a special situation here. And I said, okay. He goes, I'm going to talk to you about it. And that's what happened. And not only did that song do something, but he uses with the E Street Band a version of If I Should Fall Behind, which is also on that record, where each one of the singers in the E Street Band gets to sing a verse. And it's wonderful what they do with it.
Mm.
Wonderful how they pull that off. And both those came off that album. So, and then he
That's
asked me to do the video, and I was like, okay, I'm on.
Yeah.
I'm
I
part of
remember
your,
seeing you
you know.
in the video. Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
Man.
few commentary about that stuff. Toby Scott, the engineer, wonderful. Bob Clearmountain mixed that. I'm amongst great company. I mean, to make things sound like that. And when we were in the studio, and the first day I was in there with him, I'd never met him, you know, and it was a little tense, you know. Come on,
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
not.
Absolutely.
I'm behind it. I brought my own kit down and set up everything with extra drums and all that stuff. And I'm down behind the kit, messing with the foot pedals and getting everything right. And I hear a voice, and he goes, "How you doing down there?" I said, "Oh, really good." And I look up, and it's Bruce, and I'd never met him. And I said, "Oh, by the way, good work." He said, "Yeah, you too." So that started it off. And then
Man.
after we ran the first tune, and I walked back into the control room, and I went to sit over into the side. He said, "No, no, 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 no. Come on. Sit right here. Me, you, Toby. Let's find out what's going on here. We're going to pick." And it was like that for like 4 days. And he's Bruce, and
Yeah. Yeah.
got it. Yeah, that's why I was playing. I changed my changed my weapons. So I wasn't playing down here. I was playing up
Yeah.
here.
You were playing. Yeah.
I was going beyond 18 inches, and actually played the track that way. So
I wondered that. Okay. Yeah. Because I'm really hitting in that video, man.
yeah, I was hitting that way when we were tracking it, because I didn't, you know, that was a different period of time and in a different. I was a different metabolism for him. My whole
Hmm.
body changed, because I knew, you know, there's a certain amount of force that he wanted, that he adheres to. And, you know, I mean, come on, he can
Yeah.
write
Yeah.
compositional. There it is
And you
again.
did that. And you
Sorry.
did that record absolutely compositional. And if I remember correctly, you told me at the time you tracked pretty quickly. Like he wanted to work pretty
Yes.
fast.
Yeah. I think he had booked like 2 weeks of studio time, and we started on a Monday morning at about 9 o'clock in the morning, and we were listening and done by Thursday.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Amazing.
you know, he had that whole set of material written, and then they decided we're going to put both albums out. That's what I was told.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
That's
it's like, okay,
yeah.
okay. So and I hear those things a lot. Yeah. And then after that, we did the softer album called The Ghost of Tom Joad, which was
Right.
mostly a lot of brushwork, very simple, very easy. Bruce was up close and telling the stories, that everything he wrote. And there's a lot of talent there, man. I mean, I know I'm saying it
Well,
down, but there's a lot of the other thing about the video, that video was they were using 35 millimeter, 16 millimeter, and 8 millimeter. So everything was being shot simultaneous. And we started at noon, around noon, and we ended up at midnight. So we shot. And his vocal was not a lip sync. Everything else
okay, I wondered that.
yeah, he was
Yeah.
singing each time we tracked the entire song for real.
Wow.
They had a set up.
You could hear him singing at the end. Yeah, when the backing track, I guess, presumably ended, you could still hear him singing. And yeah,
There
okay.
you go.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All for real. He's for real.
Great backstory.
Oh yeah.
Well, I know we've been going for a while, and I know you have to be a little tired from you're just getting back from your tour with AJ last night. But I do want to talk about for a minute before we wrap it up, the exciting news that you shared with me before it really sort of went public about Eminem.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
Eminem,
just
yeah.
that's so
Abracadabra
exciting.
did- Yeah, I go ahead.
Well,
What do
I
you
just think you're a co-producer of that song, right? Of Abracadabra. And
Yeah,
I
how it went, how the record went on Abracadabra really quickly. I'm going to try to edit it quickly for you. Was basically a lot of the material. I wound up co-producing the entire album with Steve. Thank you, Steve. And we conferred on a lot of the material. 8 of the songs came out of my studio, track wise, and then we cut 2 more. And Abracadabra was one we cut in like 3 takes at Studio A, Capitol Tower.
Mhm.
But that idea for that song and that rhythm pattern and everything, me and Steve had conducted many talks back and forth about the temperament and the tempo and what that song should do, and boiled it down to nothing. It should do nothing for 4 minutes. Just keep pulsing and just do what it's just keep. There was a thing he was doing with his guitar, and I said, what you're doing there, that little fan thing you're doing back and forth with your, that. I said, that's $1 million.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like that to me. I'm moving to it, and that's what it became. And now,
Yeah.
shooting ahead 40 years, I just found out 5 weeks ago that Eminem had done his version of Abracadabra, and I don't know the facts behind it, but since things were changed lyrically, I believe him and Steve conferred on that. I mean, that's usually the way it's done. I don't know who. I'm sure there was some permission given to take liberties with that, but I don't know for sure. I haven't spoken to Steve about it, so. But
it's pretty exciting to have, I mean, an Abracadabra for Steve Miller for you guys was a massive hit. I mean, it was just like a number one. I just remember it being.
Yeah, we sold out 3 or 4 nights at the Hammersmith Odeum in London on the strength of that song alone, and I mean that was another pulse of energy that happened 82, 83, 84, and drove it into the 90s, and with that unit, and once again it was just Steve and me, and it wasn't Lonnie, it was Gerald Johnson on bass, and Gerald played because there was something happened with Steve and Lonnie, and we brought Byron in, our synth player, and we told Byron, look, just do this for 5 minutes, okay? Don't do this, just do this for 5 minutes, okay? You with us? Please. Everybody hold it. Just that was it. I'm making light of it, but it just stood its ground. It just did that pulse purposely for that amount of time. And Mr. Mathers, I believe his name is Marshall Mathers. Is that his?
Marshall Mathers? That's right. Yeah.
I mean, thank you. I mean, that was wonderful. I mean, guy had a rough time, and he came out of it, and I'm happy for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Well, should
Yeah.
we play a couple of minutes of your version of Abracadabra?
Just a few.
I think I
Yeah,
think we should.
a few seconds. Go ahead.
Here we
Yeah,
go.
it's your show.
I heat up,
Yeah.
I can't cool down. Got me spinning round and round, round and round and round it goes. Where it stops, nobody knows. Every time you call my name, I heat up like a burning flame.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
yeah. I was doing the keep. That's Byron. Just do that for 5 minutes.
it's such a great groove, and it's such another great sounding record. Great mix. Great
Yeah.
snare sound. Yeah.
Yeah, and Steve liked all the other material. That's why he used it. That I was, and I didn't target Steve when I presented that material to him. That's probably why he liked it, and we wound up. And that album was done. We finished that whole album up in a couple weeks. It was done.
Wow. Yeah.
So that carried the ball. But I Abracadabra just had that very danceable motion. I saw something going on in England. I said, something's going on there. They seem to be moving to this one. And I checked tempo out. I said, we should cut right there. Let's cut right there. Let's see what happens with that. And once again, the composition was finally ready to go.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And very cool that you were a producer, that you got the credit, which I don't want to speak out of turn, but I know in past sessions and contributions that you did a lot and maybe weren't credited as a producer when you were really kind of filling that role. So it's great to see in this case, you're a producer on that. So that's great.
Finally, that some of that got put into place. But in the history of rock and roll, in that particular category of music, may have happened over in jazz and the way they put stuff together. A lot of times, the rhythm sections, they contribute to that production. They really do. I'm speaking for all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah.
When you start asking questions with the drummers across the board, and you realize that happened a lot.
Yeah.
And credit for everybody out there. I know Stan Lynch, the original drummer with Petty, he was instrumental in putting together a lot of those tracks, and I credit him for that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Gary, as always, it's been such a pleasure having you with me today, and I so appreciate your time. You are a treasure and a great friend. I so appreciate it.
Thank you, John. And what I'll do is we're finishing the third of the trilogy of my stuff, my personal originals. So there'll be when I'm done, there's going to be like almost 50 pieces of material spread over 3 CDs, and it's a trilogy. So Stinger's done, String Theories is done, and the name of it is called Pendant. And as soon as I'm done with that, and I'm taking big chances on this one, I'm going to get trounced for this one. Watch. Oh, they're going to kill me for this one. Watch. But I'm going to release all 3 of them as the trilogy, and no new unit has ever done that. They've only released 1 CD. I don't think anybody released 3 CDs. We could check it out, but I don't think they have.
Yeah.
So I'm going to release all 3 as the trilogy called Pendant, and it'll have all of the compositions in there. And I'm excited. We'll see what happens.
We'll have you come back on and I'm going to have you come back on and we'll play some of those compositions. That would be great.
We play little pieces of them, and I'll tell you what they do. Mainly, this is it's for film, but Jesse and I have put this together to play in concert, so we could do both with it. Let's just see what happens.
Okay. Well, you've been kind enough to send me. Yeah, and you sent me some of the early stages of it, so I appreciate that. So it's Fantastic work as always.
You know, so all right, listen, thank you. Thank you for being
Thank
there.
you. Big hand for Gary Mallaber, everybody. Thank you for watching, everybody. Gary, thanks for being here. I'm going to end the stream and we'll say goodbye in the room. But thanks,
Okay.
everybody. I'll see you real soon. Again, a big hand for my friend and hero, Gary Mallaber. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, sir. Okay.